problems, and over time they'll become blue, black, and fish. But the reason you have stronger and weaker enemies is to guide the
Puta Rosalba.
In the beginning of the game, Kura suggests to explore the regional phenomena in Raito Village first, and more difficult enemies will be placed along other routes to further discourage new players from exploring off-the path, while still retaining an extra challenge for players who are more familiar with the combat and stealth systems. The hidden experience system makes the difficulty of the world feel real. It's okay to make a direct route more treacherous and dangerous than the indirect route. That makes exploration more interesting because players can opt into an extra challenge by taking a harder route.
That's for schoolgirl. Now here's a route
that's across the map. Moving on to the main quest, there are 5 different temples in the game. The temples can be split into 2 parts, the lead-up and the actual temple. The lead-up is always the same premise. The player investigates regional phenomena, meets a character from Breath of the Wild, and both Link and the other character makes their way to the dungeon. The first regional phenomena I investigated was at Death Mountain. All of the Goron seem to be hypnotized by this marble rock rose. When we arrive, we find Hinobo is handling this whole marble rock rose operation, and he is defeated in a trivially easy boss battle. Of course, it turns out Hinobo is mind control, and he can't remember what Zelda said to him. This is a minor issue, but I hate how often this game is fading and flat. It makes the presentation of the game feel cheap. It would have been nice if there were more seamless transitions. In retrospect, I am glad I did this regional phenomenon first. Sometime after completing the region, I went to Goron Forest and spoke to the Great Gigatron. He told me where I could find the Master Sword, so I went there, pulled it out of this dragon, and I got a strange cutscene with Zelda. I figured this meant the missing Zelda was the Light Dragon, so I went ahead and did the memory side quest too. If you get to this point like I did, you will discover that the missing Zelda is actually the Light Dragon who was flying around Hyrule. I effectively found Zelda's whereabouts, but the game didn't acknowledge it. Every regional phenomenon I investigated still had other characters saying, "Oh, is that Zelda? I wonder what she is doing." Though Link already knows that is not Zelda. I can understand why Link wouldn't blab to every NPC about Zelda's whereabouts, but you would think the story would at least allow Link to explain that to Riju, Sidon, Yunobo, and Toon-Link. I guess the developers wanted a big reveal that Ganon was Zelda all along, but who else would it be? One of the memories already showed Ganondorf pretending to be Zelda in the past. They're just reusing the same plan again. I expected more creativity in its evil doing. Everything about
Puta Rosalba.
the first thing the player has done, with no relation to other content that may have already been explored. For a game that is all about non-linear exploration and freedom, it's surprising to see that the story didn't even account for the player witnessing events in different orders. Minus that grievance, the lead up to the temples are fine. I just wish it wasn't so formulaic. The voice tells you to go to the temple, though solving the regional phenomena was already plenty of reason to do so. Once inside, you try to activate a terminal, see that it didn't work. Get told to activate the doohickeys, show their location on the map.
Puta Rosalba.
Quite accepted. If the hand-holding was removed from the game, nobody would miss it. It's especially strange seeing all this hand-holding because the temples are...
Puta Rosalba.
In older Zelda games, the map was something that had to be earned. The start of the dungeon was finding which doors could be opened and learning how to make your way around. Now the player just has to zone in on the waypoint and make their way over to it. The puzzles are a lot like what is found in Shrines, and once again, I blame this on the game designing all of its puzzles on the same 4 abilities that were given at the start. Since the dungeons do not provide Link with a new item that grants new abilities, the puzzles aren't going to be much different than what is provided. Also, without keys, there is less depth to these dungeons. There is never a point where you have to backtrack unless you are giving up a puzzle and walking to another one. The temples are generally better than the Flying Beasts, except for the one temple, which is my favorite dungeon in the series, but because of these issues, they still pale in comparison to dungeons from other Zelda games. The dungeons may not be that impressive, but it does pick up with the boss fight. I'm glad the dungeons have unique bosses.
Puta Rosalba.
It doesn't make up for the rest of the disappointments with the dungeons, but at least it could end on a high note. At the end of the temple, we get a cutscene about the prison. I hope you like it because we get the exact same cutscene 4 times. I was flabbergasted when I first saw this. It would have been fine if it was different narration that expanded upon the scene and provided new context, but no, we just get an identical retread of events, swapping one stage for another. After this cutscene, the sage joins me on an adventure. They come with their own abilities. I don't feel the need to cover the sages because I've already talked about what I feel are the biggest issues with them. Instead, I'd like to focus this section on Minoru. It's cool that there is this customized effect, but they are by far the peaceful sage. They could help walk over the gloom, but by the time you get the sage, you're starting up with help walk over without working out the art. They would like in front of them, but you do it for life. They are too broken in combat, and way too vulnerable, and Minoru is slow when moving in.
Puta Rosalba.
I'm Ocha. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Look me up if you ever need some help. Here's a tip to get you started. Use spin jump to reach higher ground. When you take damage, you'll drop all the rings you've collected. If you take damage when you have no rings left, you'll lose a life, so be careful.
Puta Rosalba.
Use the spin dash to break through the rocks and continue on.
Te lleva la chingada Joaquín. Puta Rosalba. Puta Rosalba.
It's disjointed. I am rather disappointed that they went with the memory format again. In Breath of the
Joaquín Romeo, puta vida. Hecho a perder. La payasa eres tú, Rosalba.
Together the events that brought us there. We also had a find would act as successors to the